Well, welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about sun transits 14 and 34. And we're going to be exploring around, seeing what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. And just before we started recording, I had mentioned at the last session, I had spoken a little bit about having trepidation about stepping into gate one. And Lauren had predicted that it was all going to go swimmingly. And so the trepidation continued until I was in the gate. And then there's this realization of everything was feeling kind of interesting and fun during that period of time. And even the little stuff that was coming up that usually kind of nags at me, I was actually finding kind of cool, creative ways to deal with it rather than getting frustrated with it. And and then just being so in tune with the beauty, like the beauty of the changing season here. And I was really captured by it. So trepidation was all for nothing. I don't know. Anything come up for the two of you during this last couple of times of sun transits?
No, not particularly like that. I mean, I've just been really busy in my, everyday world, and I haven't really been tapped in quite the same way. But I do think that how you explained your experience of Gate One was exactly very Gate One, right? Like all of this creativity and beauty and recognizing that, there is this joyfulness underneath that we can tap into, right? And so, and also we did, we switched halves of the year, right? We moved from this yin energy into this yang energy, which is a more active, and you had a little bit more of an active approach, essentially, is what you were saying. Like I saw things that were problematic, and then it sounds like chose in some ways to look at them differently, right? Or the opportunity arose, and that also sounds very active. And also, as we switched into this new half of the year, we switched into a new quarter as well, and this new quarter is the quarter of mutation, which is all about this changing things, right? Mutating them from one thing to another. And so you obviously really captured that too, right? Like in the past, I may have approached something this way, but this time I did it this way, right? That's like the heart of mutation. So really interesting that that all came through.
And I guess also sort of shining a light on being aware of it allows us to have more options. We see more of what's happening. Yeah.
I want to share one thing, and I think it's too big a topic to explore in this venue, but it might be something folks need to hear that listen to this. This kind of came into my awareness between gate 1 and 43, but more so in gate 43. So that's the gate we happen to be recording in right now. And this was my relationship with messiness. And I don't like messiness. But I have my own messiness, and that's fine. And it should be acceptable by everyone else. But other people's messiness starts getting me uncomfortable. And so um, what I experienced though were a couple of these calls to join groups or community opportunities, which we know we're all being called to right now. And I found myself on this precipice of, yeah, I know that's where I should be moving, but it's messy. I don't really like the way they organized that. And I don't really like the way they wrote that letter. It's really confusing. And maybe I don't want to associate with that. But then I would see myself doing it at the same time. So I really think about that, particularly in gate 43 in this. How do you define yourself and what do you stand for? These questions of an insight. And so for me, big headlines were, hey, get comfortable with messiness then, and particularly other people's messiness, because it's the only way we're going to move forward.
Yeah, I love that. And that also speaks to mutation, right? Like it's also like part of why things are messy is because they're in flux in some way, right? Like any artist studio you can walk into and you're like, what is going on here? Right? But amazing things can come out of messiness.
Yeah. But isn't there's a saying about a clean desk is an empty mind? Yeah. So I guess we just, I mean, life is messy.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had trouble with messiness and I was going through my coach training program, and my coach to mentor gave me a practice. She had me sitting on the kitchen floor with pieces of wax paper and chocolate pudding.
What?
You have no idea how uncomfortable that was to actually follow through on that practice. And then I'm like this little kid with chocolate all over my hands. But there was something transformative about having to do that and going, and actually in the end, it was kind of fun. So
Well, I like that you were able to turn the messiness and your distaste of the messiness into play. And I think that may be the word that's missing for me when I look at some of these groups, or, how can I approach this in a playful way and not take it so seriously?
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's true of that energy. 43 is has a bit of messiness around it because it does carry these deep insights, but the messiness is in actually getting the insights out into the world in a way that other people understand them, right? And that's where there's so much the people that have this energy often find themselves just in this place where they have all of this stuff that they know to be true because it is an individual energy, but they cannot get other people to see it, right? And so it sounds like a lot of the communications you've been receiving are kind of in that, that vein.
Like, could I just rewrite that for you? Let me help you.
Right, but when you rewrite it, it's just messiness to somebody else, right?
It
It's
is.
only, right? There's only clarity for you probably. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Good
yeah.
point, Christine.
Yeah. So, and in the spirit of this individual energy that we started out this half of the yang-based energy of the year, we were in gate 1 and then 43, both individual channels. We continue that path in these next upcoming two, and we start in gate 14 on the the 16th of November. And so this gate 14, again, also an individual energy. It's in our sacral center. So it's this life force energy. It's a fuel, an energetic fuel to live life on our own terms. And gate 14 in particular is known to be this, it's part of the channel of the beat. And the beat is the beat of your own drum, right? People with this energy very much have to kind of forge their own path and do their own thing in their own way, in their own timing. And it's called power skills in the I Ching, or I'm sorry, in the Rave I Ching, in the human design mandala, it's called power skills, and in the traditional I Ching, it's possession in great measure. And so there is this idea of abundance also kind of tied up in this, like this ability to have a lot of skills and power and ability and competency, right? And I think competency is the gene key, the gift in it, right? Being competent. And so this energy, while we're moving through it, while the sun's moving through it, you may feel this, right? This may be something that each of us has like, oof, I feel like I can really make things happen in these next few days, right? Um, so just being aware of that and maybe, harnessing it if you've got stuff that needs to get done in these pre kind of holiday times. Now, this might be a really great time to do it. Again, individual energy, your own particular take on the world, and the fuel to do it.
it's interesting how like look reading what Richard Rudd had to say about the shadow and the compromise and how that starts so early in our lives, so that that takes away that ability to follow through on those things that we really want. Um, because we kind of like in school, we're supposed to do it in a certain way. We're not supposed to color outside the lines, right? And yet some people make tremendous amount of money coloring outside the lines. But they were the ones that they could keep going and follow their own dream. So I think that's part of the big barrier here with this particular gate is like, what is the barrier and um, how do you listen to yourself well enough to just sort of solve the barrier?
Well, I wonder if the barrier is in our inner critic, and that harshness that we can tend to bring out in ourselves, that keeps us from achieving those things, that just keeps us cycling in our own stories, and those that maybe we've been told about ourselves or we've come to believe about ourselves. And I think we can do a little unwinding with that when we look at the Gemmo. But taking a look at what Hillary Barrett has to share for this hexagram 14, it is the question: given all you have, who will you be? And, I think if we lined up all these questions really from the last couple months, they all carried that same theme: is who are you? Who are you, and what are you going to do with it? And here we have another opportunity coming with a little different flavor, asking that, here you have all these gifts, and who will you be with them?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this individual nature, right? And this is what human design is trying to teach us, is this differentiation, right? We are each here to be unique beings. And this compromise, I feel like the compromise in this energy is about compromising ourselves, right? We are compromised. Our true nature is compromised for us, in the beginning, and then we continue to self-compromise based on the need to fit in, right? Based on the tribal needs that we have. And so, yeah, all of that, like, who are you going to be in any given moment? And it's tricky for us, right? It's really hard. We've been compromised, all of us, for so long through the conditioning of the world that it can be really hard for us to know who we are. What is our own beat of our own drummer, right? We don't know, you
Yeah.
know? Or maybe we know, but we don't feel capable of actuating it. Maybe we feel like we have so many obligations, taking our time and energy for other things, that we don't feel like we can actually do the thing that we know to be true, right? So this is also, again, a time to really sit with that, I think, and see, what comes through as the sun is pushing down, all of this particular energy at us. So.
Sort of contemplating in preparation for talking about this, I it started to be thinking about my path and looking back to when I went into university. And it's like I had decided when I was about 12 that I wanted to be a home ec teacher. And so that was my direction. And while I was in university, I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the books I couldn't put down with the sociology, the psychology, and all of those things. And then about in year three, I realized I didn't want to be a home ec teacher. But then over the next years, I was back to what really was drawing my attention, what was energizing me, and just like what it would be like if I'd actually paid attention to myself back then. And because a lot of those compromises come from like you said, the expectations. And I think about the kids I knew whose parents expected them to be doctors or lawyers, and they were sticking on that path and they're miserable. What if they paid attention, to their own energy?
Yeah, there's a lot of direction in this energy, right? And it's interesting. I carry this energy. It's a primary energy in my design, and it also happens to be in a space that's very veiled to me. It's in my Neptune. And so it defines this generator part of me, and it also makes so much of this aspect of myself hidden. And when I was reading the Line Companion, which is this extended explanation of these energies, what kept coming up was that, there's lots of energy for direction in this in this time in gate 14, but that doesn't mean you know where you're going, right? And so for me, I was like, well, wait a minute. Wait, that rings way too true, right? Like I'm always moving somewhere, but it doesn't mean it's anywhere, and the evidence would suggest doesn't mean it's always been very, there's no preponderance or possession in great measure, right? Like I don't have a lot to show for all my direction. And so this is something too to be aware of, right? Like there's an energy to move, but often we don't know to where. And so being mindful of like how we're using our energy. And for me, what came up was this is energy that really needs a guide. This is energy that really needs help, and it won't ask for it, and it often doesn't accept it, right? And so I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can see that. So maybe this would be a good time to look for some help or to accept some help that's been on offer. So
Well, Christine, I can't help but plug right in because the Gemmo, I think that would be helpful at this time is one you have a great affinity for, and that's field maple. And so I want to take you on this little journey here with field maple. What field maple does is it sweetens the picture. And so it allows us to see what's already there. It's not adding to, and that's what I'm hearing about this gate is these are the gifts we already have, but we're not engaging with or don't trust ourselves or don't believe in ourselves enough. And what field maple does is it comes with this really profound sense of ease and acceptance and dropping all that rumination, dropping all the worry, like, where am I going? I should be somewhere by now. And just lets you welcome all that is. And so it's not really about, and we all know that, and I know you do, about getting point to A to B. It's just that we're moving and growing. And I think field maple, when you think about it, and we're not so far off up here in the Northeast from thinking about tapping maple trees and the sap rising. But you think about all those minerals in those trees and all that nutrition that's already there, and it's sweet. I mean, isn't that amazing? And I think we have that running through all of us. It's the overlayers and the conditioning that have just got between us and that.
And I think that's in connection with field maple and allowing that to sort of encourage the movement of the sap in us is that we could be paying attention to what energizes and what drains us, and then paying attention to it. And if it really drains you, you might still have to do some of it, but you can mitigate that. Maybe you could get help, like you suggested, Christine. Ask for help.
well, and also while we're transiting, the sun's transiting gate 14. Venus is going to be a little bit behind. It's going to be back in gate 1, and Uranus is in gate 8 right now, which again puts that channel of inspiration. It makes that defined again for everyone on the planet. And so we had that again when we were in gate 1, and we're going to have it again this entire transit. And so it does speak to what you were saying about this idea of um, just like the supportive idea, the supportive nature of what's going on beyond just the sun transit. Like, yes, this channel of inspiration is there to help you think about or accept and be in new ways of existing, essentially, right? And being open to that. I think it would help with all that.
And
Um,
we also have a new moon in this period of time, a new moon in Scorpio. So I think that's going to bring some energy to this as well. So it sounds like there's a lot of support there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's a really, yeah, it's just interesting. I've just been looking at just these, this month essentially and thinking about like wow, this is going on every year. And for me, this is like this kind of time of year is like this, but I always kind of associated that with my mundane world. And now I'm like, oh, maybe it's just the energies of the bigger world that I'm actually experiencing right now. So it was interesting.
It's interesting that with this gate 14 and 34 is that like with this idea of this possession of great in great measure, I'd make sure I got that right. That there's not the not efforting, the not pushing against the flow. So like not again pushing against the beat of your own drum in this particular gate. But then as we move into 34, it's also not pushing against the general flow of energy. So, I guess not efforting is a big theme here today.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, Lois. That totally brings us right into gate 34, in which, in the line companion, I was also reading this today. Ra actually references Yoda, who says, "Do or do not. There is no try." Right? So, but yeah, and so gate 34, like it is the most powerful gate in the entire body graph, right? It again is in our sacral center, so we have these two sacral life force energy gates right next to each other, and 34 is literally called power. And it is, connected. It's part of what we call the integration circuit or the integration field. It actually connects to three other channels. And so there's a lot going on when we're in this energy. And we have been in this energy back in the beginning of our Gemini season. We were in gate 20, and gate 20 is the corresponding gate, the gate across the mandala from gate 34, right? And so together 24 and 20 and 34 make the channel of charisma. And so as we're in this gate 34 transit, the channel of charisma will be on for the entire planet, will be defined. Again, this is the energy of where thoughts become deeds, right? It's the manifesting generator channel, right? So the entire planet is going to be a manifesting generator for, 5 days. So there's lots of energy. Again, this could be amazing. I can get all kinds of stuff done energy, or it could be chicken with a head cut off energy, right? Only you can decide. So, um, but 34 is very much, again, like you said, it's not like it just is, right? When this is on in people, you can see it in their energy. They're just moving through the world in a really rapid clip, and it's hard to tame it. And it isn't trying, it is just doing. Um, and it's also in the I Ching, it's the power of the great, right? And there is a lot of great power here. So being aware of that, harnessing it in your own life as much as possible, but also being aware that everybody else is experiencing it as well. So it could possibly feel really frenetic, right? Or you could feel overwhelmed with all of that energy. And so giving yourself space too, I think might be really important during this transit.
It's interesting that you the quote from Yoda, because I was thinking about this gate because that came up for me too. But then I started thinking about the whole Star Wars movie, at least the original three. I don't know about the rest of them, but with this idea of the shadow being force and the gift being strength. And in the movie, it's may the force be with you. And there's the you look through the force, strength, and majesty in that trilogy because there's the Empire using force to make things happen, and it's the evil side of things, and then the Jedi's who are moving with the force, and like the whole training is about how do you be with what is, and then you've got Yoda who's sort of the city aspect of this thing, and I thought it was really interesting to look at the movies through this gate.
Hmm. Well, I have a lot coming up and I'm just trying to stream it. I have this gate. So I can feel it as we're talking about it. And I think for me on a personal level, it's always, how do you moderate it? How do you moderate that will? Because it is a will, and the strength and power to get things done, and work with it in a way that's constructive with your own energy. In Hilary Barrett's translation for Hexagram 34, she's asking, how will you use your power? And that's Lois and Christine, that's just what you're talking about. How will you use it? And it makes me think a lot about polyvagal theory. And we have this use of our sympathetic state. We can approach it from a very productive way, or we have an unproductive use of it. And the unproductive use occurs because this part of our vagus nerve, which Stephen Porges calls the vagal brake, isn't toned. So what the vagal brake is for is to allow us to pick up steam without losing focus and get into that chaotic state. So it lets us be more productive, quicker, actively, but focused. And that's something that our life patterns weakens. And so many of us only know how to do all those things if we're being chaotic. We see the 6 things on our list, we immediately speed up and we start getting a little scattered in our approach. And so thinking back, and I think, for those who see things from a real physical body level, I think looking at polyvagal theory and looking at the vagus nerve and the vagal brake would really help you understand what this energy is about, because it's about managing, not controlling, managing that force within.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because I do think that there's a tension between managing and controlling in this energy, right? Like there is a very strong, and again, we live in a power-oriented world right now too, right? And we think about power as power over, right? And this power has that power in it, right? And we use that when we're afraid. That's what a bully is, right? And this is how we power through things, right? And so it was interesting when you talked about the force, Lois. I was thinking about, because force, to force is the shadow of the gene key, force, using force, right? Using power in a forceful, power over way. But I hadn't really ever connected that they called the force, like, which was really the light of it, right? Really the gift or city of it as an empowering thing, right? And so it's kind of an interesting twist that I never really made the connection of. But that is, all of what you both are saying is very true to this gate, right? It is a huge amount of physical power, life force, energy power. How do you manage it within yourself so that you will not then out in the world use the power incorrectly, right? At its best, this power is here to serve, right? This is what this power is here for. It's to use the life force energy for the benefit of the collective. And so keeping that in mind as you're powering through your day, like, is this working for me and is it working for others?
And I think that comes down to healthy boundaries. It's like we're not forcing it to happen, but in that the development of healthy boundaries, which is best started when we're children, and is to have the parents and our caretakers around us help us develop those healthy boundaries. And I think we're not seeing that. It was just like watching the news over the past little while, and the incidents of um, dealing with problems, dealing with interpersonal problems in a violent way has become more and more prevalent. And so that unleashed use of force and power where there's no sense of consequences around it. And so the boundaries helping us to pay attention to the consequences of our actions, both for ourselves and for those around us.
I like that you brought up boundaries, because the Gemmo I was thinking of that could be very supportive during this time is mistletoe. And mistletoe gets a bad rap about boundaries, because it starts out kind of going over the line and attaching itself to a tree. But over time, it develops a symbiotic relationship and where everyone benefits. So it's interesting. It's like mistletoe goes through its own gene key development from taking advantage of and then moving to working in this symbiotic way. But I would suggest mistletoe for folks in a time where there's a lot coming at them to help them regulate their system to move through it. So this time we have a little different case. We've got something coming up through us. And mistletoe does, it's the only Gemmo that works directly with the vagal break. And its work is to build resilience in that break. So I would imagine this is a very good Gemmo to even start as you're approaching this gate, to kind of alert your system something's coming and we're going to feel it. I'm curious, is this going to be double amped up for me? And if so, I feel sorry for anyone that has to live in my sphere during that time. I'll be taking my mistletoe and maybe handing it out to everyone else. But I think what we want out of this is to utilize all that beautiful energy and move it into a place of strength and majesty. I mean, that's always the goal. And when we're working with the vagal break and we're conscious and aware, I think that is really possible. It's within reach.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It makes me think about this integration field that 34 is kind of at the core of, right? Like the whole planet will have 3420 on for the duration, but 34 also connects to 57 in the spleen, which is this highly intuitive energy. So the most powerful energy connects to our most intuitive energy in our system, and then it also connects to gate 10 in our identity, which is really kind of our own most true self and energy, right? And so I think about this mistletoe as being something and not the only thing, but this idea of finding things that can help us integrate this power to make things happen in the world with our inner knowing and our inner wisdom, right? And our higher self. So I think that's a really interesting take on the Gemmo for this particular one, because it does seem to align so clearly with this really unusual energy in the body graph.
Yeah. It is interesting to use the word align, and I was thinking about the aligning with the energy that's trying to flow, the same as the Jedi's in the movie, right? And just but that it takes practice. It doesn't just happen. So that needing to keep going with it and going with it until it just becomes natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a particularly difficult energy like that because it is so active and activating, right? And so this idea of a practice, whatever practice you might have that grounds you and centers you and slows you down, right? And keeps you in a space that isn't activated quite so much, probably is going to really pay off in this stretch of time, right? Because we also live in an activated culture, right? In an activated world. It gives us brownie points for being activated, right? You know? So fewer brownie points, more meditation, or whatever the practice is for you that keeps you more quiet. I think that that could be a really nice counter to what is probably going to be coming through for all of us.
And so then we would have, rather than the chicken with their head cut off running around, we have something really amazing coming out of this period of time.
That'd be cool.
So it looks like something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It feels like we're complete. Okay. So thank you for being with us, and we hope we'll see you next time.